This is Sky Maiden Musings, a program presented by Dikki Jo Mullen, that's me, in Orlando, Florida, about astrology and various aspects of the paranormal. Today we're speaking about the traditional Victorian seance. Seance comes from a French word meaning session or sitting, and it's a special time set aside in order to communicate with the spirit world. Seances became popular in the 1800s with the rise of the belief in spiritualism, a Christian mystical religion. Seances were conducted at the White House. Abraham Lincoln and his wife Mary Todd Lincoln were proponents of spiritualism. At that time, the population of the United States was around 38 million, and it is estimated that 18 million people participated in seances. That's an incredible number. Seances are still conducted today, and the point is that they're a special time to communicate with those loved ones that we've lost. We all wonder about a belief in the afterlife. We all long for a last conversation with those we might have loved or not loved, or want to say something to, wondering if they have something to say to us. Does it work? Does it not? We could debate all day. I've been involved in seances and spiritualism since I was a young child. And today, with so much happening in the world, it seems as if the spirit world is more active than ever. More reports of ghostly occurrences, a greater interest in spiritualism, and seances are developed. In the Victorian era, the traditional Victorian seance evening was very simple. People would begin by socializing in order to create a warm and welcoming presence, and then lemonade, hot tea, sometimes hot soup or scones would be served, and the loved ones in spirit are thought to respond to the essence of the frivolity, fun, and food, and then they can be called in for a session or a seance. Beeswax candles, I have a pair of them here, are ideal for use during a seance, and fresh flowers are always essential. The fresh flowers bring in the essence. They're an offering to loved ones in spirit. And also a bell. This was my grandmother Esther's bell when she was a school teacher in the early 20th century. She didn't like the children. She liked running a dress shop and having seances better. And then also the fragrance lavender. This is a bowl of lavender herb. The lavender will draw in the spirit world. Another item might appear on a seance table, and that's a flat dish with talcum powder. And at the end of the seance or session, sometimes drawings. I've had handprints and fingerprints and sketches, even numbers and letters appear in the dish of talcum powder. Seances are usually conducted in the evening. Now, the spirit world is with us all of the time, but the evening hours, when the hustle and bustle of the day is quiet, and all of us are in the more relaxed alpha state. It's like fine-tuning a radio. It's an easier time to communicate with the loved ones in spirit than in the bright light of day. Generally, after sunset or so up until midnight is a favorable time. At least 3 people, but I like to have a minimum of 5 in order to raise what we call a cone of power to conduct a seance. And it's a good idea to begin to speak or think a little bit about loved ones we might want to contact, but remember, it's not like making an appointment to have one's hair styled. You might get a message from someone other than you expect. Suppose that you've lost a neighbor that you think might have a message, but Great Aunt Matilda comes in and the spirit that's there sounds just like her. We have to welcome in whom we might get. There are some invocations that are popularly used at the beginning of a seance. This one I particularly like. It was first published in The Spirits Speak, a weekly newspaper, in 1901. There is a land where we all go, whence ne'er the frost nor cold wind blow, and friends remembered reunite, and those who hate forget their spite. In glow surround these gentle beings. We call you now to bless our meetings. Heaven's promise our spirits thrive, so now for the living let the dead come alive. Greetings, spirits, speak thee to us. The seance is generally led by a natural sensitive, a medium, and I grew up in a family of mediums and have been assuming that role for many years at different seances. We have here a photograph of my grandmother Esther at this very table in the late 1960s with her sisters. And this was at a time when a seance was conducted. I have her picture enlarged at the top. And she's often present as a guide because this was her table that she inherited. I had an antique dealer look at the table who said it's actually much older, from the Empire period, so the family might have brought it from Europe. This is grandmother Esther as a very young girl, and this is her family some years earlier than the other one. The man seated is my great-grandfather, Frederick. He was a famous dowser and would go all over Wisconsin. He could always find the well on the first try. And he had 7 children and his wife. Psychic phenomena and experiences and the practice of spiritualism were very common in the family. This is an early photograph of my grandfather Joe, whom I've named for, with a spirit that appeared around him right as he was leaving for World War I. And on the other side is my mother as a very, very young girl with her teddy bear as a ghost. The teddy bear wasn't really there, but he was hovering over the piano, and I have that very teddy bear with me today. I like to think it's a comforting link to loved ones in spirit. Mostly feel as though a seance is a friendly evening. There's no danger with it. Patience is important. Perhaps some of the joy in it is that it's unpredictable. We never are quite sure what exactly might happen. Phenomena does occur. Sometimes there will be raising or lowering of temperature as spirit energies draw the heat from a room or stir it up to create more heat. Sometimes there are objects that will fall or move, beginning with ringing the bell to alert the spirit world that we're here. And then also music is done. If I have someone who's able to play the piano well enough, we'll have live music or recorded music at a seance as a substitute, and then singing right before the seance itself begins is a popular element. You can have a simple seance at home called a dumb supper. Dumb as in silent, not stupid. And that means just quietly, silently in the evening, lighting candles and welcoming a loved one home for a special meal. It used to be just food, but in modern times, setting out a picture or a favorite book is often done. This was my great-grandmother, the father of the mother of the large family. It was her son, my great-grandfather, whom I barely remember as a very, very old man, as a young child. Of course, great-grandmother Wilhelmina Frank Ullman, born in 1840 in Alsace-Lorraine, was long gone by that time, but spiritual and mystic legends vaguely relate to that branch of the family that long back. There isn't a necessary element in hereditary spiritualism. It's a little bit like being artistic or musical. One might have an affinity for it, but then practice and willpower and an open heart are all that are necessary to communicate with the loved ones we've lost. Remember, the moment of death, there's a weight loss of 6 to 8 ounces, and that energy has to go somewhere. This is Dikki Jo Mullen, welcoming you to the idea of a traditional Victorian seance.